Okay, hello, Tech 400. Prof. Braden Evans coming at you with this week's recorded lecture. We're going to recap true colors. We're going to sort of break it down and understand what these personality profiles are all about. And then we're going to talk all about working in teams. Now, this lecture's got a video associated with it that you'll be able to watch independently. And so it's going to be real short and sweet, which is I think the way we like it when we're dealing with pre-recorded lectures. All right, so let's dig in here. True colors, this exercise that we did as a group, is designed to improve, increase, assist our understanding of sort of what we're all about. So it helps us become more self-aware in terms of our personality type and our value system. All right, it's pretty simple to work through and it's universally applicable. So it's really something that's kind of easy and but also very insightful. All right, so you went through, you did this worksheet and came up with a profile. So the first thing I'm going to do is direct you to this web link. So the one on the PowerPoint here is no longer valid and live, and so I've posted one on our course page, an updated link for that. And it's about a 5-minute video that shows you through these characters, through this staged sort of theatrical presentation, what the sort of stereotypical personality types are for our 4 true colors. We've got gold, green, orange, and blue. And you have these characters sort of acting out in an extreme way, what these colors represent. So I'm going to direct you to that following this lecture. It'll be your job to go and watch that on your own time and get a better understanding of maybe where you fit into this world of true colors, but also where maybe your teammates, colleagues, peers, personal life, partners, family, friends, right? What's everyone like? Help you understand that a little bit and maybe appreciate people for our diverse sort of approaches to work and life. Okay. All right. So in a nutshell, the summary of it is we fall into one of these 4 basic groups. Okay. And we typically fit with these profiles. So if you scored out as a blue in your True Colors personality profile assessment, all right, you are likely to be someone who is emotionally driven. All right, so you're looking for harmony, you're looking for positive relationships. You tend to have sort of this really sort of human focused approach, and you can be a real consensus builder in teams. A lot of teachers and professors, people who gravitate to the career of teaching, fall into the blue category because they've got a lot of empathy and time and patience for students and the people that they're working with. Okay, if you scored out as a gold, all right, a gold, you'd be very loyal. You'd be pretty you would adhere to rules and authority pretty strongly. Okay, so you're really kind of wired that way. You're responsible, you're organized. All right, so that's a standard gold. Green is more analytical, so you kind of have this scientific approach to life. Cut out all the emotions and just focus on the facts. Okay, lots of logic and sort of efficiency and focus in your thinking. And then if you're orange, you're a little more short-term driven, very adventurous and impulsive. You like change, variety. You're a little more sort of a fly by the seat of your pants, very creative person, okay? And typically high-functioning teams, well-run organizations have a balance of these 4 personality types. If you have a whole bunch of golds, typically your organization's going to fall apart. If you have too many blues, same thing. So really, when you're looking for sort of a well-balanced team, you'd like to see some combination of these 4 colors. Okay, out in the broader world, we look at some of the samples that have been done, and this is the distribution of the different personality profile types. So gold is kind of the dominant one. It's the most common color, and Blue is the least common. So if you're a blue, you're in high demand. Like people like you add a lot of value to teams because you're very unique, right? Gold I'm sorry, orange and green sort of make up pretty much exactly half, and they're pretty close to 50-50. Maybe there's a few more oranges out there than greens, but that's a pretty sort of split cohort. And then gold being the kind of most common of the colors. All right, so have a look at the video. See if some of that resonates with you. Does that seem like the kind of person that you are? Usually it does. I know for me, it certainly hits home for sure. Okay, so that's our true colors exercise. Hope you enjoyed it and learned some things. We'll move on to this concept, this idea of teams, teamwork, okay? Really important in school because you've got so many group projects, but even more important in the real world, in real life, in the workplace, where you're gonna have to work with other people, whether you like it or not, right? And so we really got to develop our skills for this, okay? So you think about the definition of a team. Maybe we have some basketball fans here, right? This is a team right here. If you guys recall, in 2019, the Toronto Raptors won the NBA championship. Woo! Go Toronto! All right, and the Raptors, you know, they were an excellent team, but part of their success could be attributed to the fact that these players had strengths in different areas. And when we say sort of different sort of skill sets, different strengths, we're saying that they are complementary skills. So you're good at one thing, your teammate is good at something else, and when you put, you know, the two of you together, you get, you know, great productivity, great efficiency. So this gentleman here, Kyle Lowry, an excellent distributor of the basketball. He was a good passer, right? This guy, Kawhi Leonard, he was an amazing scorer. So if he could get the ball to this guy, well, we were in business. Things were going well. And then this gentleman over here, Serge Ibaka, excellent at, you know, rebounding and getting the basketball back, right? So he could bring it back to Kyle Lowry, who could bring it over to Kawhi Leonard, and so on and so forth. So these guys were good at different things, and that's what made them such a great team. And that's what you got to think about, you know, when you're putting your own teams together in school and in life and in work. So you want complementary skills, you want a common goal, common purpose, and you got to be able to hold yourselves accountable, right? Hold each other accountable. Hey, you got to take care of your side of the project. I'll take care of mine, and we'll put it together, and we'll have something great, right? Oops. Okay, so when we're talking about sort of teamwork, you know, especially over these last several years, we've seen that teams can be face to face, you know, traditional, but in the virtual world, we've had a lot more in the way of virtual teams, right? We're using all kinds of technology now to meet remotely, gives a little more flexibility, but also sort of affects and changes the richness of the interaction. It's different, right? When you're talking to someone through a screen versus sitting beside them. So different ways we adapt to these different approaches, right? You know, pretty much web-based interactions are kind of like the norm now, and something, of course, we're going to have to continue to get used to in the years ahead, because even as we move away from the pandemic, we've got a lot more sort of tools and functionality to run teams virtually, right? Okay, so you know, in terms of like the ultimate goal for you know, putting teams together, the idea fundamentally is that we want to create synergy. People say synergy, yeah, I know synergy. I've heard synergy before. I know this term, right? So one of those words that we are, you know, familiar with. We've heard it before, but if someone said, "Hey, define synergy for me," it might be hard for us to really put it into words, right? Like, well, you know, it's like when, you know, things just go together, right? That's synergy. But, you know, if you wanted to break it down into some simple definition, here's how I think you could put synergy, okay? You could say 1 + 1 is greater than 2. Now you might look at that and say, Braden, you got to go back to grade 9 math class, maybe grade 2 math class, okay? Um, you know, the one, well, everyone knows 1 + 1 = 2, but synergy, the goal is to put these complementary skill sets together, like our friends Kyle Lowry, Kawhi Leonard, and Serge Ibaka, our Toronto Raptors, right, that we talked about a few minutes ago. And when you put them together, the output, the total productivity of these three individuals ends up being more than if you were just to add up their three individual productivities on their own. Okay? So through complementarity, good teams can achieve synergy. All right? So that's what you're looking for. And I hope in your group projects in the class, you're able to find some synergies and realize some benefits of working in teams. Now, of course, this is something we're all familiar with. When we're working in teams, there are some disadvantages, right? There are some cons. And on the downside, what do we have? Sometimes we waste time, okay? So if I'm, in a team with my good buddy, we get along so well, we get sit down for a team meeting, but we spent the first half hour talking about our weekend. I went to see the movies. I went to dinner. I saw something really cool when I went for a walk. So you have a tendency to waste time, especially when teams kind of have a good chemistry. So that's a possibility that could lead to a problem. Then there's this idea that there's some pressures to conform. So sometimes we don't want to be the one to cause conflict, right? And so you feel like, okay, I'm just going to go with everyone's, thought process, even if I don't really agree. And that's not a good thing, right? Sometimes it's really helpful to disagree respectfully, right? And say, hey, let's consider some other ideas as a way of coming up with some creative solutions. Here's one we know, social loafing. That's this guy here, right? Everybody else is doing their part. They're working hard. And this individual says, well, I don't need to work so hard because I think everybody else is going to get the job done, right? So that can lead to conflict. And then groupthink, when we just all sort of land on the same idea, we lose some of that creativity because we just kind of used to working together and thinking the same way. So we have to be careful to avoid, the disadvantages of working in teams. But if we can avoid that, then achieving that synergy that we're talking about, can really sort of take us a long way. All right. Now, when we get sort of placed into our teams, we get to know each other a little bit. We start to assume some roles. Sometimes the roles are assigned explicitly, okay? You are the person who's going to coordinate the meetings. You're going to be the note taker. You're going to be the, the researcher, right? So that happens sometimes explicitly, where we give a task or two tasks in specific roles to specific people, right? Sometimes it also happens organically. When I say organically, I mean just kind of naturally, right? So this person says, you know what, I'm a good problem solver, so I'm just going to take on that role. I'm really good with teamwork too, working with people, so I'll do that, right? Someone else says, well, I'm really good at coordinating and also finishing the task, doing the final edits and that kind of thing. I'll take those roles and so on, right? So, people hopefully can gravitate towards their strengths when they're working in teams and really sort of work on the things that they're good at, right? Go back to our Toronto Raptors. The Raptors would not have been as good, as efficient, as productive if, Kyle Lowry, the passer, was the one taking all the shots to try to score the points, right? Or vice versa. If Kawhi Leonard, the scorer, was the one making all the passes. So you got to kind of focus in on what you're good at and make that best contribution to the team, okay? So it's good to assign roles if people don't come about them naturally. Okay. Now, some of the things I'm going to run through for a few minutes here may seem to you as common sense ideas. I think that it's good to exercise common sense when you're in a team, but it's good to also revisit these ideas as well, to say, okay, let's make sure we understand, that what we need to do to make this all all work. Okay. So first of all, you got to trust the people that you're working with. Okay. You want to be a good team player, trust your teammates, right? And sometimes if we're a high achiever, we have trouble with this because we say, I'm used to getting a 90% average and I don't want to lose my marks. So I'm gonna take on all, even if people are assigned different tasks, I'm gonna take on most of the work. I'm gonna just basically do everything. Well, that totally defeats the purpose of putting a team together. And you're hurting your team by doing that. You're limiting other contributions and creativity. So you got to trust that, hey, the people that you're paired with, they're smart, they're capable, and they can do the job. Okay. Um, all right. You really need to approach all of the work with a sense of cooperation and collaboration. I mean, this is one of those common sense points, right? We know that, but we don't always do it. Sometimes we have an agenda or we're really focused on having things go, the way we want them to go or, moving in a certain direction, right? And so, we really got to sort of focus on that and work on that, ensuring that we're approaching the work, the meetings, the entire sort of process with a sense of cooperation and collaboration. It's really important to, recognize what our peers, what our teammates are accomplishing, right? So sometimes, it's nice to get recognition ourselves. It's nice for people to say, hey, nice job. But you want to be able to say that to your teammates as well, right? It really can boost other people's performance when they feel like they're doing well, when they've got some extra confidence, okay? So being able to, throw out a compliment, give your teammates something to build on, that can really help sort of increase their level of engagement and their contribution to the work. Okay, another piece. This is a hard one. All right. We have to give and receive helpful criticism. Ouch. I don't know about you guys, but if I put a whole bunch of time in, if I put some hours into to draft a section of a paper, an assignment, 4 pages, took me 2 days, right? And I hand it into my team, and my team comes back and says, change this, change that. That's not good. Oof, that stings, right? It hurts. So we need to be able to do that well. And we like to give the criticism well, but we also really need to be open to receiving it too, right? You're only going to get better if you receive the criticism from your teammates and see it as a positive thing, an opportunity for improvement. So think about how you can deliver the message, right? How can you give constructive feedback, constructive criticism to your teammate? Well, one way may be to first focus on the positives and then talk about the areas for improvement. So I could say, hey, teammate, really nice job researching your section of the paper. That was so well done, and we've got a lot of great resources now because you did that great library work. The one thing I would say is that you need to kind of work on the spelling and grammar, right? Because there's a lot of spelling mistakes, and so to really kind of strengthen your piece, it'd be good if you could review it and maybe have a friend look it over as well, right? So that's a way of saying, hey, here's a way to improve your paper while also saying I appreciate the work that you're doing. Okay, so that's one way to give that criticism in a positive way, right? To say, hey, like, I'm with you, I'm on board, right? The other side is you need to be able to receive it, right? So if someone gives you a message like that, that's not insulting, nobody's trying to be mean to you. They're really giving you this feedback because they know it's going to help produce a better product. So sometimes we have to swallow our pride, right? We have to say, oof, okay, I guess I got to improve in this area. But you got to do it for the sake of the team, okay? So criticize with respect, criticize diplomatically, focus on the work, and be prepared to receive criticism. And if we're all doing it to each other in a respectful way, we end up with a real nice product at the end, okay? Share the glory. Okay, so if we get a good, we do a draft and we get some good feedback from our prof or our boss or whoever we're doing this work for, we got to be able to say, hey, everybody contributed to this, right? We don't have just these individual, rock stars that make this group so great. It's everybody. It's the whole team. It's all of the collaboration together. Okay. So make sure we share that glory, share our successes, right? And really, this can be something small. Sometimes we do it jokingly, but it can really affect sort of team morale and chemistry. Is we don't belittle the accomplishments of others. If someone does something good, don't act in a jealous way, right? Don't take them down. Boost them up. Build their confidence. They're going to be a better teammate if you do that. Okay, so those are sort of the guidelines I think we need as a refresher and reminder on how to be good, good teammates, right? And I'm gonna focus on a couple of sort of concepts and theories and approaches to decision making in a group, because this is important. We can't underestimate the value of making good decisions, all right, and solving problems, all right. So first off, we'll talk about different ways to kind of think about it. We need to realize that the mindset and the approach can range from being sort of political. And when I say political, I don't mean, Doug Ford or Donald Trump or Justin Trudeau. I'm not talking about politicians. But by political, I mean like having an agenda, having some preconceived idea in mind and saying, I want to fight for this idea. I want to fight for this concept, right? That's what being political is. Being rational means, okay, take our biases out of it, take our influences, our preferences out of it, right? And let's just look at the facts, all right? Let's be really sort of rational, logical, right? And just make a good decision that way. And maybe if we disagree on some points, we put it to a vote, the team votes, and we move on. Like we have a system to just kind of take the emotions out and make good decisions. So what I tell students is try to steer more towards being rational decision makers than political decision makers, because rational, you're going to take sort of some of our personal ideas out of it and really kind of focus on the facts and probably get to kind of the right solution that way. Okay, so yeah, it's really based on, being rational is kind of based on the scientific method, right? Being very objective. Being political really kind of focuses on biases. Think of using inquiry, which is like being curious and just really genuinely looking for the best alternative, as opposed to advocacy, where you're really just kind of fighting for some idea that you have, right? Okay. All right, so here's a weird kind of, strange, I guess, phenomenon that I have witnessed firsthand that we don't think of intuitively. We don't think of this naturally, but it really works, okay? So let's say we are working on our infographic and, our group is kind of debating some ideas and we can't decide what approach do we want to take? Do we want to approach A or approach B, right? And we can't decide, we're disagreeing on this thing. After a while, we start to lose our sort of productivity, okay? And so what I would recommend to you is stand up and physically change your environment. So if you're sitting at a table during your meeting, say, okay, everybody, let's go over to the whiteboard now. And we're going to stand. And amazingly, just changing our physical circumstance, changing sort of our posture, that can trigger solutions very quickly. So I've had this happen, when I'm sort of doing some of my work with my research, where we have some long meetings sometimes, and we're sitting around a boardroom and bouncing around ideas, and we start to lose kind of our momentum. We'll do that. We'll get up, start sketching things out, drawing things, looking at things from a different perspective. So don't underestimate the value of literally changing your physical position, standing up to arrive at the solution that you want. Okay, when it comes to meetings, there's some important kind of rules of engagement, right? And this is something I think a lot of Seneca students can work on this, and so one, be prepared for the meeting. So if you're going to go meet your group to talk about the infographic in Braden's Tech 400 class, read the assignment description. Show up knowing what you're going to be talking about, right? Spend 5-10 minutes just understanding what it's about, right? Arrive on time, stay till the end. Don't just sit there quietly, participate, right? When I say constructive nonverbal communication, I mean show some body language that shows engagement, right? Show them that you want to be there. Don't sit there with your arms crossed and looking out the window or staring at your phone, right? Be engaged in the meeting, okay? Don't hold side conversations. So if someone's speaking in the meeting, make sure you're paying attention and staying focused, and definitely come prepared to compromise, right? Be willing to be flexible with your ideas, adopt different ideas. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of approaches here to decision making and problem solving in team settings. Okay, so the first one is maybe something we're familiar with in concept. It's the idea of brainstorming. Okay, so brainstorming is a pretty wild, loose kind of approach to coming up with like really creative ideas. So when you need to think outside the box and come up with something maybe non-traditional, brainstorming is a great approach. Okay, you come up with some really interesting ideas. Now you can only have a limited group size, so like 5 to 7 people is reasonable. Too many people, it gets out of control, right? It starts to look like this times 10. So 5 to 7 people, everybody's got to have an opportunity to contribute, right? And we don't criticize. Sometimes we laugh because there's some funny ideas, right? But we support these strange ideas sometimes, right? You're encouraged to be kind of unstructured, freewheel, just throw out what's on your mind, okay? And it's amazing what results. Sometimes some of the suggestions are a little bit absurd, right? They sound like, oh, that's not realistic. But then when you start improving them and combining them with other ideas, it's like, whoa, that's our solution, right? And this is how some transformative changes take place, through this kind of thinking, right? Not just, going with the status quo and assuming things are all the same, okay? So we want quantity, we want a lot of ideas, we want a variety of ideas. We combine them, right? Or we adjust what someone proposes sometimes, like improving an idea, okay? What's really important is that one person really needs to be dedicated to taking notes, right? A secretary of sorts, right? Because you have so many ideas being thrown around so quickly, it's just out the window and forgotten if you haven't recorded them. So somebody's got to write things down, okay? It's good to invite outsiders, and I'll just tell you a quick story. I remember having a research meeting about how we were going to lay out our field work areas for the season. And I was in a room with a couple of other entomologists, right? We're all just a bunch of scientists who think the same way. And we were kind of stuck. And one of my employees came in and joined us. And this employee was actually a student in animation, had no background in science, no background in entomology or anything. And he sat down with us for a few minutes and literally helped us solve a problem that we had been working on for half an hour. So he just had a different perspective, a different way of looking at things. And it was so helpful for us. So bring outsiders, okay? And don't feel like you need to be structured. Loose and fast and sort of wild ideas are really encouraged in the brainstorming approach. Okay, so now I'm going to give you the other end of the spectrum, something completely different. And this is a decision-making or problem-solving tool that we use when maybe we need something to be sort of decided on more quickly, okay? So maybe you don't have as much of a creative solution doing it this way, but you're gonna be able to arrive at something like quite quickly. And so this is called the nominal group technique, okay? And basically you're working as a team, but you're gonna generate your ideas independently as individuals. Excuse me. Okay, so how does this work? Starts with, getting the group together, right? And someone who is sort of designated the leader of the group is going to present, the issue. What are we trying to solve? Let's say, how do we reduce the cost of tuition for Seneca students, right? That's an important one. Okay, so that's the problem you have. Now, everybody's clear on the problem. Everybody's clear on this question that we're trying to address. We go off independently. Everybody back to your office. You here, and you sit quietly and you come up with some ideas, right? And choose your best idea. Okay? You're going to choose your best one and bring it back to the group, right? And you're all going to go around the table one at a time, right? And present your ideas. The group is going to sort of clarify, right? Like what is it exactly? Okay, I understand. And then you're going to have a system to evaluate them so that you can just rank them right away. You know, let's vote on which is the best idea, right? Which is your second best, right? And you can score them and rank them, right? And ultimately the best one is chosen. So it's a situation where, like, within a matter of hours, you can come up with a solution. So it's really helpful when you need to come up with something kind of quickly. Okay, so different than brainstorming in that you're less likely to have very creative, outside the box, different types of solutions, but you can certainly be very efficient in coming up with a solution as well. Okay. So there's just a sort of rehashing of the steps for the nominal group technique. All right, folks. So that sums up our lecture on teamwork and a little sort of touch base on true colors. Now I'm going to ask you students to go have a look at the True Colors video. Take a look at yourself, your own personality, see if it all makes sense. And hopefully you enjoyed that exercise. All right, thanks everybody for paying attention. Appreciate everybody's engagement, and we'll look forward to catching up with you next week. Take care. Bye for now.